Hey all, Tony Bing here. Hello and welcome to my Golem Mastery build for Iceman for Marvel Heroes Omega for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Now in this series of videos we will have a look at various in-game builds that I've been using for characters in the game. Now what we will cover, so you can follow this build and get a good idea behind the rationale for it, is we will look at the skills and talents. We then check out the synergies. In regards to infinity points, we'll look at the first 100 points and where we would allocate them. We then check out a general gearing priority for the build, so that way in future you can use those tips to gear when new artifacts come out. And at the end we will also do a quick bit of gameplay. We will have an operation run through and a bit of a spoiler. We'll be facing off against Juggernaut. But what I've done is I've actually put timestamps within the description of the video, so if there's any section you want to jump to, feel free to do that. Otherwise we will check out the skills first. For the skills here then, we have a nice easy to follow rotation, and we're really going for the ranged and summon side of things. Now for your main spender, there's two options. The first one is Chillblain. This is more utility orientated because it restores ice armour and also chills the enemy, an effect that I really like because it ties in with flash freeze, which we'll see in a moment. But that's the particular spender that I'm using. Your other option is Icicles. Does a bit more damage and you gain a damage bonus when you shatter, so it is nice, but I do prefer Chillblain here. So the first actual cooldown skill we have is Ice Slick. Works as a dot, provides vulnerability, which you always want to start your rotation off with, and you can see it has deep freeze. So we use Chillblain first, then we use this, and it means that the enemy will be frozen for 4 seconds rather than 2 seconds, which is really pretty nice. We then follow up with Flash Freeze. So what this does is it directs all your summons, which will be cast automatically when you first start attacking due to a talent choice. It will direct all them to attack the particular target you're fighting. It does damage, and it also means your next shatter power does 200% bonus damage. So if we look at the shatter power we'd be using, this is Frozen Lance, and it has a 100% critical hit chance, so you're buffing it for 200%, and then you're giving it the 100% critical hit chance as well, so it can hit for a huge amount. Now when we look at the legendaries, this skill will be relevant because you'll see it's tagged as melee, and also the other shatter skill, Arctic Wave, is tagged as melee. Now I do believe, and I'm pretty certain, that Frozen Lance should be tagged as ranged, because you should have a ranged and a melee option when it comes to shatter, so I think that will be changed in future, and it will mean the vast majority of our skills, with the exception of the signature and summons, have the ranged tag, and that will be relevant when we discuss gearing. But for the summons we have Ice Golem. Now through the talent setup, as mentioned already, we will automatically summon the Ice Golems, but manually activating the skill every 10 seconds means that Ice Golems will do a damage attack, but on top of that they gain an icy aura for 5 seconds, so it's a nice dot, and because they're melee summons they will be round enemy, so the dot will be hitting them. We then follow up with Work of Art. So this one will taunt and immobilise enemies. It does a nice amount of damage, and the cooldown lines up relatively well with Golems. Golems is 10 seconds, this is 12. The rest of our skills are on a 6-second rotation. So the way I do it is I do a rotation of our first 3 skills, 6 seconds, 6 seconds later do it again, and then I'm ready to put down the Golems and also the Work of Art. That works pretty nice for me. Final skill before we look at talents is Absolute Zero. It's got a pretty long cooldown on it, but it does hit for a ton, freezes the enemy, and it does a nice amount of damage, and you're also invulnerable while casting it as well. But next up, let's have a look at the talents. First talent we look at here then is based around the summon side of things. This is Golem Mastery. So with this, your summons gain a 15% base damage bonus, and Ice Golem summons 2 additional golems and they automatically join you in combat, so that part of that is very important. Now for the next option, a lot of people when they run a summon build, they will use Frozen Orb and they will use Blizzard because it gains bonus damage as if it's a summon power and it spins on that show area. Now the thing with Frozen Orb is the animation on it's quite slow, and I find I just don't like casting it in a rotation. It feels a bit clunky for me. Now it provides a relatively low dot of in the region of about 2,500 per tick, whereas if we use Frostbite means when you use a chill power, which is our main spender chill plane, this applies frostbite, it does extra damage for chill powers, which is our main spender, and it puts a dot on for 1.5 thousand damage. So what you're doing is we're dropping Frozen Orb, we can then pull in another skill, and in this case I pull in the Golems. You get the dot from them as well, you get the snowball they throw, but through this talent choice you're also getting a dot on Frostbite as well. So it really does seem worthwhile for me. But next talent, it's Empowered Minions. So your signature Absolute Zero bonus effects increase the damage of any summoned Ice Golems by 100%, and you also summon 2 Iceman clones as well, with a 10-second duration there. We then have Follow My Lead. So this buffs the base damage for summon powers, which is our Golems and also Work of Art, and you gain a 5% chance when you hit to summon an Iceman clone as well. Now, final talent we look at is Chilling Constructs. So effects that increase the damage of summon powers now apply to Work of Art, and Work of Art will actually trigger a free Ice Slick at the spawn location as well, so that's really pretty nice there. Now, with the talents covered anyway, let's have a look at the synergies. For the synergies then, we start off by looking at the two that buff our primary attributes, which are energy and durability. So that would be Gambit and Luke Cage. We then have the standard synergies that I do like to use, and they are Blade, Hawkeye, Hulk, She-Hulk and Squirrel Girl, and synergies that can work great for this particular build because they buff either ice power damage or summons would be Iceman, not surprisingly, Rocket Raccoon and also Storm as well. But next up, let's have a look at the infinity point allocation, and we'll check out the first 100 points and where I would place those. For the infinity point selection, there's not actually any options that really stand out the way they are on other heroes for me. So I did choose to go for the Mind Gem and Deep Thought. That provides an additional 250 ice armour. The reason for that is your ice armour pool starts out quite low, and it's a great ability because, as mentioned, it does offer you the 60% damage reduction at each 60% of the damage that you take there. Now, another option you can choose if you feel you don't need the survivability, and you may not because your golems will be doing all the tanking, is just putting your points into attributes and putting them into, I would go for durability over energy. The reason for that is energy has the spirit cost reduction bonus, but that does nothing for Iceman at all. It's useless, whereas durability will give you the health bonus, so I would say that is more worthwhile to go for there. But with the infinity covered, let's now have a look at the general gear and priority. So as always with this section here, what I will do is just give a general guideline on gearing, and that means when newer items come out at a later date, you can apply these guidelines to choose whether or not you should replace your gear. Now, we have a slightly different setup here than what we're used to. When I normally show one legendary, for Iceman I'm showing 2 legendaries. Now, before I discuss why I'm doing that, one thing I'll mention that's relevant is the summons and how damage works on them. So summons gain damage from the summon damage tag, of course, but on top of that they also gain damage from your highest rated damage tag, which in this case would be ranged, and that's the reason the Golden Bow of Apollo can work great on a summon build for Iceman. So it offers the damage rating to range powers, attack speed, 1500 critical hit rating to range powers, and on top of that you've got the rank 3 and rank 5 procs. Now, the reason I have another legendary option here is that from a thematic point of view, I can't really get past the fact that Iceman is a nice character, so for me it feels a bit odd to have him firing off attacks that will leave big puddles of magma and flame. It just doesn't seem right. I know Game of Thrones has made Fire and Ice popular, but it doesn't sit right with me. Now, the alternative option you can use, which is still very good on him, is the Emkran Crystal. Offers 200 ice armour, which is great, 3000 health that we don't necessarily need, but we're never going to argue against getting some extra health, has a 600 damage rating, 1500 critical hit rating, and then it's got the nice rank 5 proc as well. So that's the one personally that I am using. You can see on my Golden Bow of Apollo it currently says that that's Hawkeye's, but I unequipped it just to show off for this video. Now, because we have critical hit rating on either of these legendaries, it means when it comes to your slot 1 to 5 on your artifacts, you can focus on Brutal Strike and more the attributes side of things to get more damage there. Tying in with the fact we've said that your summons gain your highest damage tag as well as summon damage, Mandarin can work great because it provides a heap of ranged damage, and that also applies to your relic of choice as well, which is Xandar, again providing the ranged damage there. So I hope this section was useful. What we'll now do to finish off the video is we will do an operations run through of the train yard operation where we face off against Juggernaut here. But as always, really hope that the video in its entirety was useful. If there's any questions or anything, feel free to ask, and enjoy this gameplay.
Not cool, man. I must suffer for my cause. Absolute zero sometime. Hopefully before I get pounded into a snow cone.
You should have run away!
Not cool, man.
But I'm unstoppable!